Another busy week, of course, of by-election action this week, and a similar story to last week in the sense I don't think any one party can be said to have dominated this set of results. However, I do think the two main parties struggled more this week. But let me know what you think as we go through. Obviously, we'll talk it all through as we go, and we'll go through in the same order as we did yesterday. We'll start in Aberdeen and work our way down south. Glad to get this out at the usual time, Friday 6 p.m. It managed to work out in the end. So first by-election result to look at then, Peterhead South and Cruden Ward in Aberdeenshire. And so remember, this was all of the Scottish elections for local councils are done on the STV, single transferable voting system. So all you're seeing here on my graph is the first preference votes. So just bear that in mind. It's not the full STV result. However, the SNP won the first round, first preferences quite comfortably by, it says down the bottom there, 13 points. You can ignore the majority tab there. It doesn't work for STV. It's not quite how it works. But interestingly, Reform beat the Conservatives to second place on the first preferences. And I don't know, I haven't looked at the full results, so I don't actually know if Reform finished ahead of the Tories after all the preferences. I doubt they did. I expect the Conservatives probably finished above them after all of the second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. preferences were tallied together. But interesting to see Reform beat the Conservatives on first preferences. Only about 30 votes in it between the two of them. But perhaps just goes to show that it's not necessarily the case that the Conservatives are ahead of Reform in Aberdeenshire. Although I suppose you could say it is if once all the votes are added up. Perhaps you could argue that it is. How would those people vote? I tend to think with the STV, if you look at the first preferences, I tend to think that's how a person would vote if it were first past the post. That's their first preference. So going on that thesis or that basis, interested to see Reform finish just above the Tories here. Of course, the Tories won Aberdeen South. This is in Peterhead, of course, outside of Aberdeen City, but Aberdeen South in the city. The Conservatives won off the SNP. They now represent that constituency in Parliament. So, look, this area kind of seems to be the playful between those two. But all the while they're battling out between themselves in second and third, it's allowing the SNP to take the lead there, isn't it? 22% was the turnout. It was down 15 points on the full election 4 years ago. And as you can see, Reform were the big gainers because they didn't stand here previously. And I've forgotten to change the font. Sorry, I will try and remember to do that this week. I know it's very, very difficult to read that. But SNP gained from Conservatives. So the Conservatives have been knocked out of this ward entirely now. SNP have 2 out of the 3 seats. So good result for the SNP. We will carry on down into England then and start with Bolton up in Greater Manchester. Now, this was a local party defence. I forgot what they're called, Horwich and Blackrod Independents, I think they're called, something like that. And a very comfortable victory for them. Look, 50% of the votes. Big majority down the bottom here. You can see 645 votes, 27-point majority over Reform, who were in second place. So a comfortable hold for this local party in this ward. Let's have a look, interestingly, because bear in mind, this is changes with the 7th of May, because it wasn't this seat. It was another seat in this ward that was up for election then, but it was still these same voters went out to vote. So let's see what changed. And actually, not too much did change really. There was a swing towards the localists. They went up, and as you can see, they were the biggest movers as well. 11 points up. Labour actually increased their vote share slightly. Everybody else was down, but all moves except for the local party were down, but were changed by less than 5 points, which I put my arbitrary limit to say I don't think we can take much from that. So I don't think much has changed there. I don't think there's all that much to talk about. Local party clearly very popular here in Horwich North, and a very comfortable hold for them with 50% of the vote. So we'll move straight on and go a bit further south and down into Cheshire West and Chester, which is going to be here, Weaver and Cuddington Ward. And so here's what I said, a bit of a tricky night tonight or last night for Labour and the Conservatives, I think, and we'll see more in a minute. But here's the first one. So this was a Conservative defence, and they have lost the seat to an independent. So look, I don't know anything about this independent. If you're local, you have knowledge, please do get in the comments and let us know. But a tricky one for the Tories. The Independents won it with 36% of the vote. The Conservatives 10 points behind, actually. So a pretty large margin of victory for the Independent. 390 votes is the difference. And Reform not too far behind the Conservatives. That actually surprises me as well. I like I said in the preview video, I don't necessarily associate Cheshire West and Cheshire West and Chester, the area of the council, I suppose, as being a more reform voting sort of place. And I suppose it's not. They came third, but I would have expected to maybe see them finish closer to Labour, but actually they were a good 200 votes ahead of Labour. So yeah, a tricky one for the Tories. Let's have a look at the vote share change. You can see Reform with the big movers having not stood here before. That is going to tend to be the case in a lot of places. So again, look, Tories down 14 points. I mean, it's not catastrophic for them. But I've said this a few weeks now. It's not catastrophic, but it's not great. When you're trying to sell the story that you're on the comeback trail, when you are resurgent and taking the fight back to reform, losing 14 points and losing a seat, it's not really the way to go and show that, to demonstrate that. So, yeah, not ideal for the Conservatives. Labour also down almost 10 points, so not a great showing from them. And like I say, Reform, the big move is increasing by 20 points, and the Independent also increasing their vote share. I don't know if it's the same Independent that stood last time. I doubt it, but they improved their vote share by 9 points anyway, and of course was enough to win the seat. So this ward is now 2 Independents and 1 Conservative, just to make it official. There you go. You can see Independent gain from the Conservative Party. So, like I said, I've said for the last few weeks now, the Conservatives just very, very inconsistent. And I think what we're seeing most weeks is Southeast, parts of London, the Tories are doing okay. Come outside of that, particularly when you get into the Midlands, the Northwest, the Northeast, the Tories are just pretty much vacant and not there at all. So they've certainly still got work to do, despite all the sort of bluster of the last few weeks since they won that Aberdeen South by-election. Into Telford and Wrekin, and this is a very interesting result. So if you watch we'll look at the vote share change in a minute, but if you watch the preview video yesterday, if you haven't yet subscribed, please do make sure you hit subscribe. We've got a busy week next week as well, so it'll be another week with a preview video and a by-election roundup on the Friday as well. But Mallingsley and Dorley Bank in Telford and Wrekin. Now this was Labour had about 78% of the votes last time. And I said, it's quite likely this becomes a marginal. I actually said it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Reform win this. And they came very, very close. Very, very close. So it's 21 votes now is the majority, having previously been way over 1,000. And just a 1.5 margin. So Labour just about cling on here. And look, under first past the post, that's all you need to do in theory. But if we're taking this as more than just an election result, and that's what we do on this channel, it's not just about the results; it's about the direction of travel, the momentum. If you look at it in that regard, and bearing in mind Telford and Wrekin, I'm pretty sure is electing a full council next year. This spells big trouble for Labour. They have. Let's go and look at the vote share change actually, just to see it. So there you are. Labour down 35 points here, like I said, from the high 70s, and Reform up 41 points. The Conservatives also down almost 11 points as well, by the way. So again, not a very good result for them. And yeah, for a council that is electing, I think, a whole council election next year, Labour currently are the controlling party here. This is alarm bells and red flags, and goes to show how much of a hole Labour is still in, despite the change of leadership or anticipated change of leadership coming. Well, we know it's a change of leadership, but we're anticipating it's going to be Burnham. Yeah, they're in a lot of trouble. And seats like this, where it was unassailable majority, being reduced down to a marginal in one election cycle. This hasn't gone from a stepping stone. It didn't go 78% to maybe 65 to 50% to 43. No, it's gone from 78% to down to 42, 43. So, yeah, like I said yesterday, I thought it was quite likely this would at least become a marginal, which it has. And it very nearly was a Reform victory, overturning that massive Labour majority. But Reform, as you can see, the big gainers, they hadn't stood here before, so this from a standing start to 41% of the vote is a phenomenal result. And look, I think there's been a little bit of bad press around Reform recently. I think they had a good result in the May elections. The immediate opinion polls after that showed them ticking up, and then since then, the last 2 weeks, have showed them coming back down again slightly. People are saying Reform are finished. They've peaked. We've heard all these stories before. Results like this just don't tend to necessarily back that up. And there's other results tonight as well where Reform have done very well. So, I think Reform are not finished. I think they're certainly here to stay. And we've seen their 2 results. This result, and there's another one coming later, where Reform are still capable of beating the Conservatives quite comfortably. and of challenging Labour in these places that previously they were unassailable. So yeah, we're still in a very much an indecision territory though in the country. Harborough Council then, we'll go over here, and this again is another good result for reform. It was Lutterworth East Ward, and this was a Labour defence again. And Labour have toppled all the way from first down to third, as you can see, and only clinging on to third by one vote. Reform have won, and they just beat the Conservatives here. The Reform Party got 403 votes, and it was against Conservatives 386. So a very narrow margin of victory, but a margin of victory nonetheless, and a big increase in the Reform vote share. The turnout was 36% as well, which isn't too bad. Let's have a look at the vote share changes then. And again, Labour with a very, very bad 21-point drop for the Labour Party. Now, Tories here did improve 10 points, which is impressive. That is a good result for them, but it wasn't enough to get ahead of Reform, who increased by more than double that. So, and the Lib Dems actually down a lot as well, which is quite interesting. Look, I've said in the last few weeks, the Lib Dems' shine has just come off this year, I think. And they got 2 wins tonight, which we'll go and look at. But yeah, I think in parts of the country, the shine has come off the Lib Dems this year. So big drop for Labour, big increase for Reform, bit of an increase for the Tories as well, like I say, which is good for them. And they did run Reform close, but look, this goes to show Reform still very much in the position of beating the two main parties. However, it was a very low vote share, 28% of the vote to win on, and this is where things, I think in the year to 18 months from now, things have to start changing. Parties need to start be winning more things with 40% plus, because in my view, we need a party to have at least 35% of the vote, but I think even that's low on the low end. We need at least 40% of the vote for one party at a general election to have a government with a mandate. And so it's very difficult to see which way that's going to go at the moment. I mean, the Conservatives are on a little bit of a rebound, like here, they're up 10 points. And if you add that Tory and Reform vote together, then you get in excess of 50% of the vote, don't you? So are we going to go in a direction where those two parties do end up amalgamating? I think there'll be a lot of people in Reform who are not happy about that. The Conservatives keep making a lot of noise that they don't want to deal. I have noticed, however, when it comes to deal making, that it seems to always be the Conservatives who mention a deal and then say they don't want one. I haven't really heard Reform talking about making a deal, but there you are. So that's the direction of travel we've got to go in my opinion. But Reform win here in Lutterworth East and Harborough. They deprive Labour of their one seat on this ward. It's now Reform and an independent. Okay, let's move on to Cotswold, and this is the two. There's 3 good results for the Lib Dems, but Cotswold, St Michael's Ward. Like I said, this wasn't going to be too much to talk about. There was a few more people on the ballot paper, but actually, even then, the Liberal Democrats still managed to get 58% of the vote with 344 votes for them on a 32% turnout. So again, we're seeing quite a lot of turnouts this week above that 30% mark, which is good. That's good to see. The one thing I did say, I think, no, it wasn't this one. It was the next one, the Gloucestershire. Beg your pardon. The Lib Dems with a very comfortable win, 232 vote margin, almost 40 points in it as well. And look at the vote share change, and look, the Lib Dems were down 10 points, but like I said, there was more people on the ballot paper this time. I think this was a straight shootout, wasn't it, last time between the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. So the Tories being down 12 points as well also isn't that surprising. Reform once again are the big risers, going up 15 points, having not stood here before. Same for Labour, same for Green. They didn't stand here last time either. So really, there's not much change here. It's still Liberal Democrats with a big win in first place and the Conservatives in second place. And the other 3 parties have come and stood in, but they haven't actually changed the order of the top 2. So there's not really much to talk about there. I thought it'd be a comfortable Liberal Democrat hold, and it has been. Okay, we'll come down to the south coast and look at Dorset before we move on to Gloucestershire and then Wales. And in Dorset, it was St Leonard's and St Ives Ward, Conservative defence, and they have held on here. So the Conservatives hang on. But again, as you can see, it's fairly close. Almost 100, just over 100 vote majority for the Conservatives here, 4.3 percentage point margin. So it is close, and it's Reform pushing them, and that surprised me in Dorset actually. I didn't expect Reform to do quite this well in this ward, in all fairness. Good turnout, 37.5%, up 7 points on the full election, so we don't see that very often. Actually, no, I beg your pardon. I think this was previously a by-election, actually. So this is an increase on the previous by-election result turnout. So good turnout, very good. So like I say, a number of elections this week in excess of that 30% that seems to be the average at the moment for these. So it's a Conservative hold, but let's have a look at the vote share change because it doesn't tell the whole picture. And you can see it's not a great result for the Conservatives. So they have held on in a narrow win. Not the narrowest, but it is a narrow win. But they're down 26 points. Which, like I say, is not really the sort of, it's not the result that screams comeback, is it? It's not the result that says we're here ready when we're about to take the fight to Reform, when Reform are going in the opposite direction and they're up 34 points in your backyard. So a lot of work to do for the Tories. I do think they have improved their situation from a year ago, in all fairness. I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought it was going to get worse and worse and worse, but I do think it has improved for whatever reason. But they're still in a hole, and they've still got a lot of work to do if they are going to come back. The thing is, for me, I think when you look at the timescale now between now and a general election, maximum 3 years, is there enough time for the Conservatives to really turn it around to such an extent that they can actually beat Reform and get towards that 40% margin? I mean, it would take a spectacular Reform collapse, which could happen because it's a new party. But can the Conservatives actually do that? Do they have the time to really turn it around between now and a general election? I'm not sure they do. I'm not sure they do, but let me know what you think in the comments. So a good win for the Conservatives to hold, but well, no, actually, no, it's not a good win. It's a win for the Conservatives, but it's not a good win. It's a little bit of a scrappy win, and they've held on. Of course, they'll be happy, and in first past the post, that's all that matters. So long as you win by one vote, who really cares? But again, looking at it from this channel's perspective of momentum, what do these results actually tell us? Well, it tells us the Conservatives are still out of favour with a lot of voters. So, and that's on an increased turnout as well. So that's Dorset. We'll click over to our counties map quickly and have a look at Gloucestershire, and then we'll move on to Wales. So in Gloucestershire, it was Cirencester Park Ward. Again, expected Liberal Democrat hold, and a Liberal Democrat hold is what we got. Very comfortable, and actually they increased their vote share here on last time. So this was obviously elected last year, the 2025 elections, and same party standing, so there was no dilution of the votes in terms of more people coming onto the ballot paper. And like I say, the Liberal Democrats actually increasing their vote share to win by a very healthy 940 votes, which is a 40-point margin, not even close. This is very much Liberal Democrat heartland territory these days, so not much to talk about there. What I did say in the preview video, it would be interesting to see if if Reform could maintain their lead over the Conservatives here, which they didn't. So look, like I say, it's a mixed bag, but I think on the whole we've seen enough evidence to show that that Reform, the Tories, are still in a bind with Reform. But interesting to see in a place like this, a year on from Reform beating the Conservatives into second place, a meaningless second place because they're so far behind. But seeing them actually lose some vote share here, down 5.7 points, is not huge. And the margin, as you can see, wasn't great between the two anyway. The Conservatives increased by 3 points, which is neither here nor there really. And 5.7 down for Reform is neither here nor there really either. But just interesting to see that actually the Conservatives here did leapfrog Reform into second place. But when you look at that gap, like I say, it's kind of meaningless, really. I don't think we can take too much in terms of momentum away from that when the Tories are up 2 points and Reform are down 5, compared to the result we just saw in Dorset, for example. Not much else to say here. 28% turnout. It's around about that 30-point margin. Very, very comfortable victory for the Liberal Democrats. And we will move on to Wales then. So we go to Powys, that big county in the heart of Wales, where we had 3 by-elections this week. And first we're going to go to Glantwymyn, which I think is how you pronounce that. And so this was uncontested at the full election last time. So Plaid Cymru won without contest. And here you can see why there was no contest. So Plaid Cymru you can't see it because it's gone off the scale, but it's 81% of the vote. I think it's 543 votes, something like that. Look, we're not going to spend too long on this one. A massive increase, a massive vote share, massive win for Plaid Cymru here. Reform finishing second, yes, but look at the numbers. I mean, Plaid got over 500, and the next second is in 63. So a 71.8 point margin, 450 votes in it. It's a Plaid Cymru hold. There's no point looking at the vote share changes because they've all increased because there was no votes cast last time. We'll move on because that one's a very, very comfortable Plaid victory. And we'll move on to Llanaya with Nantmel. So here's a good Reform victory then. So this was a independent defence, I believe, as far as I remember, and you can see independent down quite significantly. An independent did stand, then he got 6% of the vote this time around. So from a very, very big independent win last time to not really troubling the scorers, and Reform have picked up all of that vote pretty much. You can see there 359 votes, just under 42% of the vote, 133 vote margin, which is 15 points. So pretty comfortable here for Reform. And interesting, the Liberal Democrats finishing in second place as well. I know in the central belt of Wales is where the Liberal Democrats, I think, have their most joy in Wales, and they got a win as well. We'll see in a minute. But they beat the Conservatives into second place just about. Look at the vote share change. And sure, so a lot of changes from last time. Far more people on the ballot, I think, as far as I remember. So the Conservatives actually increased their vote share quite a lot, and the Lib Dems declined quite a lot. I think it might have been a straight shootout, Lib Dem versus Independent last time, which maybe explains some of that drop for the Liberal Democrats. But Reform with the big increase of 41.6 points there from a standing start to win the seat. Again, very healthy result for Reform. Wales, as we know, is a very fertile ground for them. And as I was saying in the preview, generally speaking, Reform versus Plaid is the story in Wales these days. So we'll have a look at this, and it was a Reform gain from the Independents. Very healthy, almost 50% turnout, by the way, and again up 7 points. So we're seeing very good turnouts this week, which is heartening. Hopefully we'll see more of that in the coming weeks as well. So a good win for Reform here in Wales. Look, they've had a good week here, I think. We haven't quite finished yet, but they've won in places we'd expect them to win. They ran Labour very, very close, made a marginal out of a former stronghold. They've beaten the Conservatives in Harborough. They took a load of vote share off the Conservatives in Dorset. So they've had a good week. I think that they'll be encouraged by this week. There's a lot of noise online, if you're online, about Reform turmoil, Reform imploding. We've heard it all before. We heard it last year. There's a lot of people that are trying to wish this into existence, I think. A lot of people who would very much like Reform to just go away, and they're kind of trying to manifest a crisis in Reform. It doesn't appear like there is one at the moment. Certainly not as far as the votes are going. So a good win for Reform here in Powys. And we come down to the last one in this county in Iskeer, isn't it? Iskeer with Honthu, Isaf and Llandew. And here was a Liberal Democrat win. So this was a Conservative defence, I believe. And look at that number. Conservatives here down 50 points. And this is what I mean. We can't be buying into this narrative that the Conservatives are back. They've turned the corner. When you're seeing results like this, this is a terrible result for the Conservative Party. They've got just 68 votes, less than 10% of the votes, and finished in fourth place, having been in first. So a terrible result for the Conservative Party, no doubt about that. The Liberal Democrats have won it with 297 votes, 38 vote margin over Reform, 5 points in it. So close. It is a close one. Reform almost getting their second win in Powys here, but the Liberal Democrats managed to get it. And let's have a look at the vote share changes then. So you can see the big drop in the Conservative Party votes. I mean, that's alarming, isn't it? That's got to be alarming for the Conservative Party. I mean, they got really wiped in Wales a few weeks ago. So this isn't, I suppose, to be all that surprising to us to see them get a result like this. Wales is not looking good for the two main parties, Labour and the Conservatives. Like I say, it's become Plaid Cymru versus Reform. Reform up 34.6 points this week in this ward. Again, standing start for them. And Plaid Cymru also up 13 points, I think, having not stood last time as well. Those are the two movers in the positive direction. The Lib Dems were actually down slightly, but only 1.5 points. So basically their vote share held up while the Conservative vote collapsed. And Reform weren't able to quite get enough votes to beat the Liberal Democrats to top spot here. So a good result for the Liberal Democrats, a terrible, terrible result for the Conservative Party. So again, it's just inconsistency with the Tories. 2 weeks ago we were saying, blimey, this is a good night for them. They've won Aberdeen South, they've won those two the Essex division and the Rochford ward off of Reform, heavily defeating them. And people saying, we've turned a corner. They haven't turned a corner. It's a much longer game than this for the Conservatives. All right, last result for this week, and we're going to Torfaen for that. And this one is in Llantarnam ward, and again, a good result for Reform. the big movers, standing start to win the election. There's a couple of those we've seen this week, actually. 505 votes for them. They've beaten the Labour Party by 143 votes, a 12-point margin. So very comfortable for them. And they do now have all 3 seats. Remember, this was 2 Reform and an independent. No independent standing here this time. So they've gained it off an independent. Let's have a look at the vote share change. You'll see the independent one goes down a lot, and pretty much a direct transfer of that independent vote to Reform, which is what we said in the preview video was probably quite likely to happen. Nobody else here really moving all that much. The only ones above 5% change in either direction was Plaid Cymru with a 6.6% increase. And again, for them, that takes them up to 16 points, but a long way behind, and actually a long way behind Labour in third place as well. So just to finish the week then on another good result for Reform. A comfortable victory really in Torfaen. And just continue this narrative that the Wales is very much dominated now by Reform and Plaid Cymru. I think it's a good week for Reform, this, like for the reasons I just mentioned a minute ago. And I think it's a difficult week for the Labour Party. They lost Harborough, finishing in third, having been obviously first. They had a stronghold ward reduced down to a marginal. They very nearly lost. And no wins to speak of. Losing again in Wales. Not even close in any of these Welsh elections. And for the Conservatives, I spoke a lot about them, so I'm not going to reiterate it. But for all the points I've mentioned, lost a seat up in Scotland. Although in all fairness, it was a notional SNP hold up in Scotland. Let's go and get the map up. It was a notional SNP hold up there because they won the first preference votes last time as well, didn't they? But yeah, I think a good week for Reform, probably out of all of the parties, with strong results. I don't think they can be disappointed in any of the results this week, to be honest with you. Bolton went to the independents. If it had been another Bolton Bolton ward, I expect Reform would have done quite well there as well. So I think a healthy week for Reform, showing them still in some positive momentum territory. And the 2 main parties, I think this week has gone to evidence that they're still in a bit of trouble. Let's have a quick look at the future by-elections map before we leave, before we call it a day. And you'll see, again, next week is a very, very busy one. And look at Wales again. Loads of by-elections in Wales. So I think, if I remember rightly, I counted 16. I think something like that. There's a lot. It might be more than that, actually. A lot of by-elections next week again. So there will be a preview video. There's 2 happening on the Tuesday. So I'll try and get the preview video out before Tuesday. And the rest are happening on a Thursday as normal. So, yeah, we've got elections from Norfolk to the west coast of Wales. We've got elections in Scotland, in Lanarkshire, all the way down to where's this one? Waverley in Surrey. So a lot to get into next week. If you haven't yet subscribed, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you very much for staying for the whole thing. Please do hit subscribe now. Make sure you join the channel. And as always, guys, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments. What do you think? Is it are the 2 main parties still in a lot of trouble based off these results? Was it a good week for Reform, or do you disagree with me on that as well? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions as always. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week for that preview video.